want to thank everyone for joining us today. Anyone listening to this later on, thank you for listening. Got a really, really exciting office hours for you guys. We have the team from 24/7 Comics. We have Carl Cho, who is an entrepreneur, producer at Six Studios, a partner and producer at Blue Blade Saga, and more importantly, he is the project lead for 24/7 Comics. We also have Callista Wu, who is the founder of Cali Star Entertainment and the co-host of the Red Bean Soup Show. She is the head of growth for 24/7 Comics. And then mysteriously, we have T-Flop, who is the head of marketing, and he's a Crypto Mories holder. That's pretty much all I could find out in such a short time, man. Sorry about that. But we're really excited to talk to you guys today.
Likewise, excited to chat with the crew.
Excellent. Well,
so it's nice.
Just to start out, I was wondering if you guys could give us a quick rundown of just everyone that's here's background.
T-Lop, Callie, you guys want to go first?
I'll take it over. So I'm T-Lop. I'm here joined with Carl Choi and Callie Wu. Got a nice little introduction here from Ryan. I'm a marketing manager here at 24/7. Been in the NFT space for about the past year, and have been working in the space for all but 1 month. So quickly, I got a job with Antonym. So this isn't my first time doing office hours with MBHQ. Glad to be back. So yeah, I'm just a college student right now. That's just a little bit about my Web3 journey.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome. Hey guys, my name's Callie. I am a fan of MBHQ. I have definitely worked with some of you guys in the past and just really happy to be here. I am also a DGen in the space. I have a background as a lawyer, banking and finance law, and also mergers and acquisitions. I have my own entertainment company and I do music. I have a couple songs for like some soundtracks that are coming out soon. Really big on representation and diversity, especially for the Asian American community. And I've been championing different causes and different nonprofits for a while now. And I think that all ties into the reason why I'm so passionate about what we're doing at 24/7 Comics. And there's a representation and storytelling component to it as well. And in terms of Web3, I have been advising and deal making and building in the space for a while. And I'm excited for 24/7 Comics in particular. I am the growth lead, so I handle the Web3 side and manage marketing, community, and partnerships. And I'm really excited because it's a really stacked team that Carl has built from people all over with amazing backgrounds, and then being able to plug in with my Web3 family and DGens and a really amazing Web3 native team to work on building together and bringing more Web3 folks into the comic book world, the anime manhwa world, and then bringing some of these artists who are so talented into the Web3 space so that we could all benefit and make the space better and help save the comic book industry. So that is a little bit about me.
Thanks, Callie. Thanks, T-Lab. I'm Carl Choi. As mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur. It's been a really fun journey. I had a background in promotions, nightlife, events production, and then moved into talent management for over a decade. And then had a bit of a quarter life crisis and was lucky enough to be picked up by a Hollywood producer who took me under his wing and really learn what producing world-class content feels like. And then I got myself a producer deal 2 years ago. And as part of that deal, I wanted to go and find comic books to option and turn into film and TV. But what I learned was the system was very broken. There were a lot of the great stories were already tied up for the major studios. And so a friend of mine who actually works within the space, who's a producer at Factory Paper Girls, he advised and said, why don't you guys just talk to a lot of these artists and writers that you know and ask if they have original content you could back. And so we did. And fast forward from 2020, 2 years later, At the end of 2021, we had 6 titles in development, and a few already number ones already done. And then also around that same time, a friend who had co-founded Azuki, Arnold Tang, added me to the mint list for Azuki. And then I minted Azuki and then dove deep into that community. And then that was when the big light bulb came where, wow, if these guys could take a manga property and make it a worldwide phenomenon, why can't we do that with classic comic books and bring anime and all these worlds together? And so in March, we assembled the team, as Callie mentioned, and then launched our free mint a few months ago. And now we're getting ready to build on top of the community that we've already recruited. And thank you so much, MVHQ. Heard a lot of great things about the community. It's my first AMA here, office hours, and excited to talk to y'all. So thanks for having us, and look forward to answering your questions and sharing more about what we're going to be doing in the upcoming months.
Excellent. You mentioned Paper Girls. I'm a huge Brian K. Vaughan fan. I've read the whole series. Love it. I'm excited for the TV show too. I appreciate you all going a little more in depth into your backgrounds. Maybe Carl, you could answer this for those who aren't familiar with what 24/7 Comics is doing. Maybe didn't hear about Bobo somehow in the past few months. Can you kind of give us a quick high-level view of what the project is trying to aim and accomplish here in the space?
Yeah, I think from a very technology perspective, it's all about problem solving, right? And when we create tools for the future, we have to think about what's broken. And as I mentioned, we had 6 comic books in production, and at the time, we were actually talking to a lot of traditional publishers. So name them like Image, Dark Horse. Folks from the traditional space that offer distribution services, and we found a few things that I don't know if it's fully public. I mean, one is distribution is completely broken. They say there's about 2,500 comic book shops in the nation, and only about 800 orders on a monthly basis. Second is the reader experience is completely broken. Where if you were to look at comic books, people care more about slabbing the physical comic books in these boards than they care about reading them. And on the digital front, these readers bring you from lettering box to lettering box, and you're actually not able to engage the art in a comprehensive way. Second, the creators are not really rewarded properly. Often, I always share the story where Sean Chen, who I'll share more about later, who's our art lead, when I first met him and really dove into his journey, he would tell me that he literally felt like he's been in prison for the last 25 years because he loves drawing comic books, but he doesn't know where else he could go. Knowing that the model's broken, he still had to feed the system. And then third, you're definitely seeing the world of DC, Marvel, all the big 2 and 3s trying to take a stab at NFTs. But the problem is that it's not a priority for them. It's an afterthought. They're really just seeing it as another line item on their spreadsheets. And so I think for us, we saw Web3, its community power, as well as the blockchain's transparency, being a perfect model to rebuild what the comic book system could be. And so that's our mission at 24/7 Comics, really not just really building our own IP, which we will be introducing as originals, but also introducing crossover IP so we could give additional utility to other NFT projects.
A quick follow-up, just because you mentioned it. I'm obviously a big comic book fan, a comic collector. You mentioned, there's a lot of people that slab comic books and things like that. Is there any plan to try to solve hey, we want to release comic books for you guys to read and IP for you guys to read, but at the same time we want to reward collectors like that? Is there kind of maybe a split that you guys are trying to achieve there as well?
Well, I won't go too deep into it. We are, I'll just say we are, because if you really asked around, we are in talks with a few major publishers because, unlike a lot of NFT projects out there, which I never understood, for me, I'm always about having the product before we go to market, where I think a lot of folks would say, oh, we have an NFT project, oh, we're working on a comic. And then, most people don't know how long it takes to actually deliver a comic book. And so for us, we're actually in talks with physical book publishers. Our strategy will be a little different. I know the traditional side is more about floppies. I think for us, we want to create, collectible books, kind of like what you see in the rise of the first editions and the value surrounding that. So that's pretty much what I'll share there. But yeah, we do have plans into the physical space. And, and if not, for you, also for myself, because I like physical things still.
Excellent. I appreciate you addressing that. Won't drill you too hard on those kinds of things for sure. My next question is obviously, Biplane Bobos minted a few months back, or maybe a month back, and Sean Chen is in charge of that, or the lead behind that particular project from the art standpoint. MVHQ members own like 25% of the supply of these things. Other than the amazing art which Chen has been able to accomplish, what exactly are holders anticipating or receiving with this most recent mint?
Callie, share more about kind of like the context of it all. But I'll give you guys a story in the background of Biplane Bobo. I mean, if you guys are familiar with Walt Disney, his journey to Los Angeles and Hollywood was a bumpy one. I mean, he joined and he came here with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and then he did a deal with Universal, and he basically was had a big falling out and lost his first creation. And his second creation under Walt Disney Studio, a studio that him and his brother formed, was Steamboat Willie, and later became Mickey Mouse. And so why that's relevant is because Sean Chen's world of Genesis, we're following this character by the name of Lucas Zhang, who is a world-class neurologist. And he believes human evolution has come to an end. And the reasoning behind that is because he figured out a way to transfer human consciousness into androids. But it's such a revolutionary idea that only two industries are willing to back him. So one is the American military. The second is the American amusement park industry. And so you can imagine how they both use their technology in fun ways. Military, obviously, you got fighting machines, human minds controlling mechs, fighting wars. On the other side, when you go to Disneyland or Disney World, who do you guys see as the volunteers? A bunch of retirees. So imagine like if the retirees can live forever in this world, right? And so the significance of Biplane Bobo is because a part of our model is to kind of unveil and kind of break down the wall of franchise IP ownership. And we want to make sure that everyone who's on board with us in the community understands our mission. And so in a way, Biplane Bobo in the 5,000 tokens that were issued is us co-owning Steamboat Willie together. And in that journey, we will be working with Biplane Bobo on an ongoing basis to not only monetize, but also continue growing the character. And so that's an example, at least on the creative side and the story side, of what we're doing in the journey ahead for Biplane Bobo holders.
That's awesome.
And then Callie can probably talk a little more about mechanics and the way we're thinking about the usage of the tokens as well.
Happy to go into that. So thank you so much. We see a lot of our whales, our 10 plus, 25 plus, 50, even 100 plus holders are from MVHQ. So thank you so much for your support. It means a lot when I see an MVHQ member have hold any one of any project, and the fact that you guys hold multiple, it feels like we're doing something right. And we trust that you'll let us know if we're not. So we like to keep an open feedback with some of our biggest holders. So if you have feedback, please feel free to let us know. We also take meetings. So we especially want to be attuned to what you guys are hoping for and take your ideas and see if that aligns with what we already have planned, or if there's something we can iterate or develop. But in terms of the Bobos, we really wanted it to be a free mint to onboard and introduce the Web3 community to our 247 Comics ecosystem, which is why it was free and we didn't launch with our Genesis PFP collection first. Genesis is the comic that Carl has been talking about with the lore, and that is developed by Sean Chen, who's the artist and writer for that. So that is coming as our first PFP collection. But as Carl mentioned, one of the main characters, Bobo, how did we turned him, the cartoon version, Biplane Bobo, which is our version of Steamboat Mickey, into a free mint NFT, and with 15 traits. And so each of those traits has a rarity assigned to them, and also credits assigned to them. And it's to be able to participate in the ways that we have to unfold our ecosystem. So we've announced that you can burn your Biplane Bobos. The amount of spots has not been revealed yet, or the points threshold, but there will be certain spots and a points threshold to burn your Bobos into our 247 studio badge, which we can get into a little bit more, but that's our VIP pass, and that allows you a lifetime membership and benefits and free mints for every collection down the line, and companion listing, which is the ability to whitelist other wallets depending on the size of the collection, other VIP things that we can go into a little bit later. But there will be an ability to access that. There will also be an ability to burn for a free Genesis NFT. And there will also be other surprises that we haven't announced yet, including burning probably to whitelist for a Genesis NFT as well, which we haven't announced yet. And the points and the credits, points threshold, and also the supply available for burning for both have not been announced yet. But as Carl mentioned, those who choose to hold on to their biplane Bobos after those 2 collections are dropped will be able to participate with the governance and the management of the franchise together. And there will be some credit participation as well. So we have the things that take longer time-wise, we've already started developing. For instance, if we want to develop biplane Bobo into a toy, we've already been sourcing 3D models for that and different vendors for that as well. So it's just building the franchise together. We can get into it a little bit more, but we will have commercial IP rights for the Genesis PFPs. So there will be some activities around that, but together with the biplane Bobo specifically, as Carl mentioned, we'll manage that together. And then those who continue to hold, depending on the credits that they have, will be able to participate with the benefits. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the supply and whether people choose to burn or not, because that's really in the hands of the holder.
I love that. I love that mechanism. Before we go on, I want to apologize and recorrect myself. I think I called T-Lop T-Flop a few times in the beginning. I am really sorry, man. I had a typo here in my notes here. I really apologize for that.
No worries.
But no, I will say that the most submitted question and the most questions that I have seen flood in, because people knew I was doing this interview with you guys, was about mechanisms for the plan and stuff. Forgive my dogs in the background. So I do want to get to that here in a second, but I did have a question specifically more about 24/7 as planned. So can you guys hear me okay with the dogs barking in the background?
I have dogs too, so I totally get it.
They always make an appearance on these things. Besides Sean Chen, you guys have other amazing writers and artists lined up, like Justin Jordan, who's worked at Image on The Strange Talent of Luther Strode, amongst other things, and Brian Chang, who has done the art for some really incredible Star Wars series comics. What are the plans, future plans with those creators? Is it something you could reveal now, or is this something that you guys are kind of holding back a little bit?
What is the question again, as far as the future plans for the creator team, or what is the plans for the future release of the content itself?
What are the plans with those creators? Are there specific like IPs that they're working on, or are they working on this particular IP that we're talking about, Bobo?
No, they are. They're working all their own IP. So as kind of mentioned, I think Ryan, you may be more familiar with like the business model of the current comic book industry, but just for everyone else who may not be as familiar, comic book creators only have really 2 ways to go. You could go to the big 2, which is Marvel and DC. You're paid basically minimum wage because you're paid a wage that you're then expected to work 20-hour days to deliver a page a day. And but you're told what to write and you're told what to draw, and often you do not participate in any ownership or royalties. Now, an example of that would be Rob Liefeld, who we all know created Deadpool. And if he did not have Ryan Reynolds give him an executive producer credit on Deadpool, he would have gotten $0 from that whole franchise. So that's kind of the kind of deals they were dealing with, and because a lot of his work for hire. The other route is Image Comics and what they call creator-owned books. And creator-owned books are basically a chance for you to submit your own comics, and then they would decide to publish it. And if they do, you pay for the marketing costs as well as the administrative costs. And then after that's recouped, you own everything. You own the rights, you own all the revenue. And I used to always think that was the dream for most creators. But after talking to a lot of our creator friends, we realized and learned how many creators actually spend 2 or 3 years of their own lives creating these books and then not even making $1 because they weren't able to sell as much. And a lot of times when that happens, it has to do with just the influx of comic books that goes into stores every month. So what we decided to go down the path of was to be right in the middle. So we pay upfront our creators Marvel and DC rates. They tell the story they want to tell. Obviously, for us, we have a right to say no, and we don't want to publish it. But if their story is aligned and we feel like it's up to par to a certain standard, then we would publish them. And then we would recoup against, obviously, whatever we invested and what we paid them as well as marketing. And then after that, we split 3 ways. So they get 33% of all net royalties. Revenue. So it doesn't matter if we're making a movie, we're making toys, whatever the income at the company level, the creator team get a third net of that. And so, we call it partnership publishing. And so as you mentioned, you named a lot of the titles, but there's still a few other guys that's not on the website yet, like Paulo Pantalina. I don't know if you guys seen him before. It's 116K followers on Instagram. He's also on board now. And we have Curtis Cloud, who's a very well-known Kickstarter writer, who's also on board. And, they all have their own titles. And our goal is to really give each title proper love in the release schedule, because think of us more like an HBO versus a Netflix. We're not trying to drop a ton of titles on everybody. We want to make sure our titles are curated, our creator team's best work, and make sure each of them has a solid collection that comes alongside with the comic reading experience itself. So they're all working, and we already have about 4 number ones ready to go. Actually, we have 6 number ones ready to go and 4 number twos. And so our goal is really just to get ahead on a lot of the publishing schedule, so that by the time we're dropping them, everyone doesn't have to wait too long before reading the next issue.
Yeah, and
go ahead,
Ryan. Oh, I was just going to say, Carl actually has a deck that he can maybe share quickly some of the art and some of the background of some of the creators, if that is where you're interested. Carl, is the deck that we talked about via text. If you want to, I don't know if Ryan, you have time for him to show some of that, but I know some of the folks we're talking to said you guys like slides. So we wanted to say that we can do that for you if you want. No pressure. But also, just to be clear, like Carl mentioned, each of the original titles that we have in development, we plan to have NFT PFP releases for them. They won't all look the same, and they're all going to have different mechanisms depending on the story and how the world built together, so that the NFTs are incorporated as part of the project. So it won't all be like the same idea. I hope you guys kind of got a hint of that from like our Biplane Bobo. We try to think a little bit differently and think about how we can incorporate things like lore and drop Easter eggs and build the world together tied to the comic books. So we also have crossover titles that Carl may have hinted at, and those are not necessarily going to have like NFT drops, but those are collaborative, Web3 project-based comic books that we're making, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you guys are willing to show the slide, then I think that's something that we would love to see. I mean, the more the merrier, but if you guys don't want to, that's fine too.
We don't mind. I mean, Callie knows I'm a fan of oversharing, so often I have to pull myself back a little bit. I'm just excited, man. I mean, while I'm setting up the slides, short stories. I moved here from Hong Kong at a very young age, and I literally had no friends. I was a big loner, and because of that, comic books saved my life. And so, to me, after discovering all this stuff about how the system is structured, I feel like I'm recruiting this community to help save the industry, because I think comic books are fucking cool. It's the best media format out there in my eyes, because all of us on this call can read a comic book, and because they're pieces of art that connects a story, our imagination will bring a different feel for each of us. And so that's why comic book nerds, we could sit around a table and talk about a series for hours because we all personalized it to ourselves in different ways. So can you guys see the slides? I think I just brought it up. So we give some preview. So Brian Ching, Justin Jordan. If you guys aren't familiar, Brian Ching has been on Star Wars for the last 10 years. He was truthfully completely burned out. And but when we pitched him this title that Justin Jordan created called Zero Ghost, he was totally reinvigorated. And in fact, some of the comic book store owners say it's some of his best work so far. But in short, this is basically a Hannah meets John Wick meets Big Trouble in Little China. And it takes place in a near futuristic cyberpunk Hong Kong. So we love this. How did it turn around the sound? Are you guys hearing that sound as well?
No.
All right. Okay, then it's just me. Jarrell Threat and Justin Jordan.
Carl, if you could just go over it like quickly, just kind of skim through and show them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we'll spend
art,
like 5 minutes.
So this is painted. Jarrell Threat actually is a Magic the Gathering artist. And each page is actually painted on 18 by 24 canvases. So it's a slower process, but he's already finished with issue number 2. Bladesmith is by Crease and Embers. The Embers are actually Netflix writers. They were initially afraid of the whole like Web3 thing, so they were anon, but they're actually going to be doxxed as soon as the comic comes out. Crease currently drawing one of Marvel's biggest titles. So if you guys are familiar with Kingsman, where they're suit tailors by day, assassins by night, Bladesmith are world-class chefs by day, assassins by night. And then Loaf by Vince Nico, this is a tribute to Berserk, if you guys are familiar with the Japanese manga. It's a revenge story. I won't share too much more, but Vince, I think, is one of the most popular convention artists out there. He has over 100K followers on Instagram. Zirkus is by Warwick Johnson Cadwell, and he is worked with Mike Mignola for the last 5 years. And, Mike Mignola, you guys know, created Hellboy. And this is his first book with us, and where he actually writes, draws, and colors. And it's basically if the A-Team was a circus, they go and perform town to town by day and solve mystery and crimes by night. And then Genesis, I told you guys already. So that's that.
That's incredible. And you're throwing out some names from people, from the works that they've been on, as well as, Mike Mignola. If you're in the comic books, you absolutely know who that is. That's incredible. I mean, just seeing that right now kind of gave me goosebumps as a comic book reader myself, because a lot of what this is reminds me kind of what Rod Liefeld tried to do when he co-founded Image, right? And he was tired of the grind, but obviously sometimes those things kind of, after, 25 years or 30 years, however long it's been, kind of you start to get away from that, I guess, with the creators that you work with. Would you guys say that basically what you guys are doing is a Web3 bootstrap for funding comic book creators?
We were able to do a round of raise, and initially we were self-funded. And the round of raise is because people did believe that we have something here. And so we are venture backed, and we also have some key members, key lieutenants over at from Binance to Alibaba be part of this process. And so, I think we are bootstrapped, but at the same time, I feel like our vision is to just update the comic book industry. I think it's been very comfortable for many years. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the optioning rights process, where the studio would buy would option the rights for a comic book from you, and then they could sit on it. And so as long as they pay their option fee every year, they don't have to make that movie. And what you kind of see happening is there's only 3 or 4 movie studios, and so they'll option everything. And that way, if there is a story that's a Captain America, derivative that may be better than Captain America, chances are Disney will keep that under option, so that it never challenges their Captain America, and Captain America stays on top. And so I think, and on the other side, comic book companies are very comfortable. Hey, look, like some of these guys, they sit on IP from 30 years ago, and they're netting $500,000 a year from these option fees. Why would they want to, why are they challenged to tell better stories if they already hold this library? So often, I have a lot of friends who left DC Comics over the last year, and they always tell me that DC is not really DC. DC is actually the Batman company, because their whole mission is really just to keep Batman alive. And if you go to a comic book shop, Ryan, you probably know this. There's like new Batman titles almost like every week. There's like 20 Batman titles, kid you not, right now. And so, although there are some really good ones, but they're not really motivated to tell new stories. And then for us, similar to kind of what you said, we are working on bringing back that spirit of the 90s where Image allowed the creators to lead. And so that is also why we structured our team in a way where we are here to support the creators and what they want and the stories they want to tell.
Yeah, I love that. Marvel did the same thing with Deadpool there for a while. I'd go in the comic book store and there'd be like 100 different Deadpool titles. It's like, oh my gosh, we've had it. So you're right. DC does that with Batman all the time. And even speaking to what you said, these studios sitting on these IPs. I had a friend who does screenwriting, and he told me he has this most amazing screenplay that he ever wrote. He'll never submit it in because he's afraid that it will get bought by a studio and he'll never see it again. So it sucks that creatives kind of have to think that way when dealing with some of these bigger companies because those companies just can. They have the money to. So I love again. You guys are really. If there's a chord you guys are hitting today, it's with me right now. So I love that. Let's go ahead and jump back into the project at hand and Biplane Bobos, because a lot of people here just have a ton of questions about the mechanisms and the studio pass and, how many points will they need to secure to get one? How many are there? How many studio passes do you guys have left? Things like that. So I guess I'll just go ahead and ask, can we get maybe a more in-depth explanation on how the studio passes work with the current Bobo collection?
I can probably take this one. So we have... Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Oh no! I said the exact same thing except I was muted. I said I'll let Callie take this one, but I was muted.
Yeah. So we have announced that it's a 247 supply. As I mentioned, it's our MVP, VIP, all the P's pass, and it's the highest tier of membership that you will have. And we are going to be calling our 247 badge holders our founding members for a reason. Like Carl mentioned, it's going to be a hand-selected, curated batch of people, starting with our backers, right? So we have gone to our backers and said, hey, do you want to be a founding member as well as a backer? And from there, we've been doing private meetings, and the public does not know about these meetings and does not know that there is an allocation for a private sale because we haven't announced it yet. And that is intentional. So sometime later this week, we will be announcing actually the private sale. And so you guys are getting it first before even our holders, actually. So it just shows like how much we value the MBHQ community. And actually, a lot of you guys are holders. So so thank you for being so supportive. But we are going to be allocating 200 to private sale, and then 20 for burning and 27 for team mint and marketing for our treasury. And this is not public yet, so please do not record this because we will know that it came from you guys if it gets out before it goes public. So we are going and we have a price. And we are doing meetings one-on-one. We are doing meetings, and those people are interested in like asking their friends to have these meetings. And so it's very curated and hand-selected. And for a reason. It's not because we want to make a lot of money from it. Actually, we care more about who participates and who is able to have access to our creator teams and the rest of our founding members, because it's going to be a very close private group with a lot of curated VIP IRL experiences, access to our creator teams, and we call our creator teams like the comic book creator teams. So the writers, the artists, and the developers of those comic books. And you're also going to have benefits in our Discord as well as like the utility that we talked about. And there's been mentions of that on Twitter and on our Medium article. So there's that. And I guess one of the most talked about things is how you have lifetime access to all of our NFTs that are coming out, all the future collections. And as you can see, we have 6 future collections that Carl has shown you today, tied to the comic books. And so each of those comic books that are original are going to have, as I mentioned, PFP collections. And so you'll have a free mint for each one of those. And ability, if we have enough of a supply of the collection, it depends on the size, then you will, depending on the size, you'll be able to companion list other wallets as well. So, and there'll be exclusive merch and all those things. So that is the studio badge. Hopefully that is enough information. But if you have questions, I can pause here.
And that was a ton of information, and we appreciate you giving us some alpha. We'll be sure to not release that particular part of this talk. One person asked Silva here if you guys could speak to the estimate amount of tokens one will need for the burn incentive. So obviously you mentioned 20 available for the burn mechanism. Do we know like a projected amount of tokens you're going to need to have?
Oh yeah, that has not been announced yet. So I think those who know what the price of the studio badge is being sold for will be able to kind of guess the amount of credits it'll be. So the price that you would pay in ETH for something corresponds we try to make it correspond to the amount of credits that you would have to pay based on, we're running a bunch of numbers. We have like numbers people running those things. And I have like a finance law background. So we're double checking and triple checking and trying to make adjustments based on floor prices and things like that. So it hasn't been officially announced yet, but the studio badge for sure will be a higher amount of credits required than Genesis per se.
Sorry, I'm here. Literally Discord just restarted on me. That was weird. Thank you for answering that. And guys, I know a lot of you have questions kind of like this, specifically about the token. A lot of them were very similar, so I'm trying to like kind of condense them. Those are the kind of the questions that I got submitted. If you guys still have questions, go ahead and drop them in guest questions here. But we're going to move on to a few more questions that aren't quite related to the mechanism here. One question came in. If you guys can maybe share a timeline of events that collectors can look forward to over the next coming weeks or months, maybe some flagship moments. I know a lot of people get really antsy when it comes to NFTs, and we're very one track minded. So maybe some points here that maybe can kind of keep us excited and anticipating.
I think the studio badge is happening very soon. Like if you blink, you'll miss it. And then Genesis is going to be on its tails. So we expect Genesis, we plan studio badge to be Q3. And I guess we're in the beginning of Q4 now. So it's a little bit late. But we are going to be doing that very soon. And then Genesis is anticipated to be late Q4.
Excellent. That's perfect. One person asked if you guys are going to be at New York Comic Con by any chance.
I will be. In fact, we, as part of like the Studio Batch initiative, is really to host these gatherings, as mentioned. We do have our first one, but unfortunately it's full for this week already. But we will be doing more curated gatherings. And I'm working with actually a friend that used to head all events at DC. He started up his own kind of convention company, and we're going to curate a calendar for next year to determine which cons we'll be traveling to. And I think for us, it's really deciding cons that make the most sense when it comes to onboarding, because we all know like there was a good amount of speculators that departed from our space, and so I think one of our big missions is to onboard new folks into the Web3 space through the comic books. And so, the reason we want to do these dinners and get-togethers is for just like-minded individuals to be able to break bread, earn that trust that often I think media tries to break down between our world and a lot of what's out there. And I think, we will be at NYCC. So if you want, hit me up too. If you're in New York, I think our dinner is full, but would love to come say hi and hang out, or just, walk the artist alley together.
Awesome. So that should answer that question for all of you there in New York and are lucky enough to go to Comic-Con.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
So Carl is like kind of he doesn't like to boast too much about himself. And Carl and I have been friends for over 10 years, like real life friends. He's like my big brother. And one of his companies was an immersive event experience company. So he used to run like the Blue Blade experience. Like he's very innovative with his activations and experiences. And also one of his companies used to plan like activations and experiences for these, I think you mentioned it, for like these big production studios. So I can't wait. And I also have some events background. So I can't wait until we are able to do 247 Comics events. And we have some fun ideas planned.
Hell yeah, that makes me excited to see you guys out in the wilderness there. Awesome. The last question that I have, and we're getting some more here too, but the last question that I have personally was if you guys could announce any other partnerships that you guys have with any other big NFT projects to us today. So, and obviously you're working with MBHQ on this. Are there any other partnerships that you guys can speak to as well in the Web3 NFT space?
Ali, I'll leave that to you. I talk too much when I stuff. Yeah.
I mean, we are working with some projects on some of our crossover titles, and that I think is still in the process of being teased, some of them. And so I don't know how much we can reveal at this moment, but there are definitely teasers that and like Easter eggs that we've placed. Some more obvious than others on our Twitter. And we're very intentional with who we are interacting with, partnering with. And there's a lot of actually like NFT projects we're talking to or developing things with, as well as other communities and even other things like tools. So we have a lot that we're building, like with our marketplace, with even like merch. There's just a lot. So there's a reason why we have certain team members to be able to activate and to develop the things that we need to develop for our community, for our holders, both now and down the line. And we have big visions. And so I think if you look hard enough, you'll be able to see hints of what we're doing. Does that answer some of your questions?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that as well. I think also the other thing, our approach may be a little different than what traditional partnerships in the Web3 space look or feel like, because I think for us is also betting on the communities we believe in. So you're going to see some of the things that we've done has, with or without the community support. And thank God, I think a lot of the communities we've been kind of investing in has been very supportive. Is that we're gonna deliver a product if we believe in that community, and if that community is aligned with our understanding of where it should be going. And so we are creating IP, and at the end of the day, we are building IP based on our originals, as well as basically IP from other communities. So yeah, so I think that's probably the best way to answer that question.
Yeah, and there's also been a lot of interest with like our digital reader, for instance. Like that is also utility right now. The beta digital reader is something that our Biplane Bobo holders have access to, and you can preview 8 pages of the Genesis comic. And we have a lot of plans to expand the digital reader. And right now it's token gated, but we're exploring as we develop that reader with additional functionalities and use cases, because we understand that it's something that's really needed in the space, both the comic book space and also the Web3 space.
Excellent. Thank you for going there. I realize that some of these questions are going to be questions that you guys can't quite answer yet, or have to be a little tiptoey on. Totally fine. We just this group of people loves when people leak alpha. So anytime they can ask a question that might trip somebody up, they'll do it. So apologies there, but thanks for sticking to the answer. Someone just asked, Discography just asked, it would be really amazing if you guys could maybe share which firms invested or the amount invested when you guys were talking about the fundraising. Is that something that you guys can talk to?
Sure. We have a slide that has all the firms. Does that work, Kelly? I think so, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I mean, these are early backers. So it's a mix of venture fund as well as individuals who are founders and even entertainers. So, as mentioned, I was in the artist management space for many years. So, Bass Jackers, MC Jin, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the work there. 1.8 million was the raise against a 25 million valuation. And I hope that answers the question. And here's our team.
Excellent.
That was fast. Good job, Carl.
So there was a question here asked, and this is referring to the first AMA you guys did. You mentioned profit participation, and I think you actually mentioned at the beginning of this call, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe not. Is that still something you're planned to do, and can maybe more elaboration go into that?
We do. Actually, it's due actively, and credits is basically our term for what profits will be. And we realize, credits, we want to have something that we could own in the way we structure our tokenomics, and at the same time, not be in a place where we're over promising certain returns. I think credits was a very great term that the marketing team all came up with to really standardize our ecosystem and how it will function. So any royalties will be issued in the form of credits, and then the form of credits will evolve over time. But I hope that answers the question. We're still on track.
Excellent. I don't quite know what that is, but I'm new to this project as of yesterday. So I've been researching and learning as much as possible. So thanks for asking that, Cough Drop. Cough Drop knows what he's talking about, so I'm sure he gets that answer. Last but not least, and this will be our final question here, I'll stop taking because I want to make sure we leave a little time for you guys to speak your mind. But can you guys tell us who Mark is?
That is so funny, and it brings me so much joy. You are supposed to tell us who Mark is. Those who provide the most helpful clues to the Mark investigation unit will be rewarded.
So you're not going to get a free throw here. You're not going to get a free shot at something. Sorry, guys. See, I didn't even know that. So that's good to know.
Yeah, our holders are so smart, and a lot of our holders are you guys. So we really try to see what would keep our holders in our Discord kind of entertained. People really like the ARG, even though it was torturous. Where we have more planned, and there is a game right now about Mark, and so it starts with who is Mark. And there's hints in the pinned messages, and you'll see some people have stealth roles being given. You won't know how to move on to the next phase of the Mark investigation unit unless you pay close attention to what's happening with people's roles and the pinned messages in the channel.
That's fun. It's a fun gamification way to get people excited. I love that. Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and stop the questions there. We've had plenty of questions and people submitting stuff to talk about here. Wanted to make sure we spent this last few minutes of this office hour and respect your all's time with having you guys just maybe summarize what we've talked about, or more importantly, maybe bring up something that is really exciting about the project that we haven't even mentioned yet or haven't even brushed on. I want to make sure I give all three of you maybe some space to talk about that.
T-Lop hasn't really talked much yet. T-Lop, do you want to go first? T-Lop, you're muted.
Oh, I have two mute buttons. I have one on my headset and one on Discord, so I unmuted the wrong one.
It's so funny. You're next to Tino, so I got confused.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So my real name is Tino, so kind of cool to see another Tino in Web3. Haven't yet. For our near future, like, I kind of, I'll let you go into it, and I'll kind of bounce off because I don't really know, what we haven't touched on quite yet. Callie?
What are you most excited about? That's what the question is.
I would say just like the community that we're building, the culture that we're building right now, that we're starting with Biplane Bobo. How our studio badge is going to be handpicked, handcrafted. So it's just going to be like a very exclusive thing. And then just the team's experience overall, like how we're going to be able to execute, bring things to life, and be able to, like, bring a lot of value to Web3, in my opinion, at least. So, yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for that answer, man.
Yeah, I think.
Just got on the line. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. Yeah, I think for me, part of the reason, like right, like in Web3, there's so many different opportunities all the time. Every project needs like building help. Every project needs marketing or community. Like why 247 Comics for me? I think it's the team, the core team that Carl put together. Each of their skill sets and understanding how the vision is bigger and the capabilities and the potential to be able to execute on things when we get to those places. That really excites me. So for instance, like if we're ready to work on film and television, which is, takes a long time, but like we have capabilities there. If we want to do experiences and events, we have capabilities there. If we want to do X, Y, or Z, like we have the capability, and then we're constantly onboarding new team members to work on steps like 5-10 steps down the line. So we're constantly growing and constantly changing. And I credit a lot of that to Carl and his leadership and his vision, because he's always been 10 steps ahead of other people. And people always say that he's ahead of his time. So I think it works out really well for Web3 because Web3 is changing so fast and constantly. So I would say the team. And then I'm also really bullish on the other Y, which is representation and diversity. So a lot of our creators, they are minorities, and even if they weren't, like I resonate as a creator with feeling stuck sometimes and not wanting to go down X path or Y path, but creating our own path. And I feel like there's so many people who have talents and stories that have yet to be told. And the Web3 space really needs more people to be onboarded so that we can build more and create more. Like there's so much talent that our creator teams have. And like the fact that they get to work with us to experience the Web3 space, like the fact that a couple of them wanted to be anonymous, but then saw like, oh, how Biplane Bobo, that drop went. And now they're like, oh, we're okay with like doxing ourselves or using our real names. Like that's huge. That means that more and more creators are going to be willing to touch Web3. And if we can be part of onboarding that and making the space better and helping to build the comic book industry out, that to me is a very important why. And also, I would say I'm really excited for the actual art, for the actual PFPs and the actual comic books. Some of them, I'm more of an anime fan and manga fan, and so some of the art styles are also that like a blend. And so I'm really excited for that because they're all, as you see, like pretty diverse. And those are my top 3. Carl?
Cool. I'll piggyback off what Callie was saying. One of our big visions is to bring the cultures of American comics, anime, manhwa, and manga together through our reader. So you will see a lot of different, art and inspiration in the way we direct our kind of art. Second is I'm really looking forward to collaborating with the studio badge holders. 247, I think, is like a perfect number. of supply because, I've been to weddings that are 1,000 people. I've been to weddings that are 100. I always feel like 100 is a little too small and intimate for me, and 1,000 is way too crazy. And 247 is like the perfect wedding size. And so if this is like the group to grow with, this will serve as the community brain trust that we lean on, and hopefully they can lean on us to kind of live out their role in the IP space. And the third part, I think something we didn't touch on was just the excitement surrounding franchise management. I think when we think about Hollywood, you think about the movies and TV shows. But what's kind of the bottom line that really drives these businesses that's been gated for many, many years now? It's actually the franchise management piece. So for every Captain America movie or Avengers movie, you think the $1 billion in the box office is awesome. Truthfully, they don't make that much money from that. It's actually a lot of it goes towards the theater because they take about 50%, and then the other 50% goes towards paying for production. But where they actually make their money is all the merchandise, all the Avengers T-shirts you see in Target, all the Avengers masks you see in Hot Topic. Like franchising is where they make all their money, and I feel like for once in our lifetime, we have an opportunity to leverage the power of Web3 as a collective to really disrupt and open up and decentralize this business model. So those are the three things I'm most excited about. Yeah, that's it. I'm actually excited about New York, flying out in the morning. So if there's anyone who wants to hang out, let me know. I'd love to walk around the con view.
Hell yes, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you all so much. It's been an honor to talk to you guys and ask questions. Like I said, I'm a big comic book fan, and I'm really interested in this project, as is everyone else in this community. I mean, I can't stress enough how much people have been talking about it over the past few weeks. So we are really, really excited. Everyone who is listening, if you've not already seen, Jacob Meyer posted the pre-mint raffle for a pass here in chat. So be sure to jump on that so you can have, the RNG gods, you try them. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. Really do appreciate your all's time. Everyone listening to this later. Thank you guys so much. And we'll go ahead and wrap that up. And I hope everyone has a great night.
Yeah.
Everybody, thanks, Ryan.